Hey everyone, Brown's thoughts here on the Off the Mic Sports Network. Well, that's what it feels like to win and feel joyful about football. Wow, wow! The Cleveland Browns beat the Baltimore Ravens 29-24. Holy shit, man! Like I can't believe that this actually happened, and you know, it further hammers home the point of what I've been saying on this channel, on this show, this segment for weeks. Really, probably, I would say as far back as the first or second week of the season. Deshaun Watson is the central problem with this Cleveland Browns organization and football team, because they looked like zombies. They looked soulless. Like they didn't care, and it was just like because they had no belief that they could actually win football games because Deshaun Watson was so bad. And Jameis Winston starts this game, and you could see from the minute this game started, from the minute he took the first snap and threw the ball, there was authority behind it. There was emphasis. And then that led to so much passion and direction and just good vibes in the stadium. Like they even said it multiple times on the broadcast on CBS that this felt like a completely different team with Jameis Winston as the quarterback. And you know what it reminded me of? Last season. Literally the same identical type of, game. They were playing it against the line. Joe Flacco lived on the edge and made some mistakes. And it's just when you have a quarterback that can force the issue and push it down the field and make plays, guys are going to play harder. Defenders are going to tackle harder. Yes, the Browns got some breaks in this game with a couple of dropped interceptions. And yes, they did lose the turnover battle because Jameis Winston fumbled the ball at the end of the first half in a really curious decision by Ken Dorsey to throw the ball twice and a second time on 3rd and 15 and then have Jameis Winston get sacked and a forced fumble. But this was a team win in every sense of the word. It has to feel great for Kevin Stefanski in a week that he gave up play calling, something that I never thought that he would do. It has to feel great for Jameis Winston to feel validated that he had been kind of anointed as the guy that should be starting over Deshaun Watson. But it also puts into perspective for anybody who wanted to defend Deshaun Watson or just to the organization, and we may never know who was behind the messaging with Kevin Stefanski and sending him to the press conferences when Deshaun Watson was healthy. Oh, Deshaun's starting. We're not benching him. He gives us the best chance to win. And only after he tears his Achilles does, the really negative side of football and the negative side of sports come out in full force. And really, what it comes down to is just, all the negative vibes and just all the bad energy and just whether Deshaun Watson was scared to throw it or he was coasting or not. It's just, all of that culminated with that moment where he tears his Achilles, a terrible injury. You hate to see that happen to anybody. And some people in the stadium are cheering. And that wasn't a good look at all. And the players were barking at the fans. And I think what that was, and I've said this on this channel, is that was really a symptom of, just the massive disconnect and the massive mistake that this organization made in investing in a quarterback that really just didn't fit their system. Because what more evidence do you need? I said it at the start of this video. This is exactly what 2023 was. When Deshaun Watson was in there, this team was limited. This team did not have the same capabilities. And yes, they did change the offense, and yeah, they have a new offensive coordinator who's now calling the plays here in 2024. But you literally saw almost a lot of the same things that made the Browns successful last season with Joe Flacco, PJ Walker, or even DTR. They were moving the ball, and they were much more effective offensively. They got to 20 points and 300 yards passing. They got to 20 points and 200 yards passing in the third quarter of this game against the Ravens. They did not do that one time with Deshaun Watson as the starting quarterback this year. The most passing yards that Deshaun Watson had this season, I have it up right in front of me. The most passing yards he had in a game this season was 196 against the Giants in Week 3. That's it. Jameis Winston cleared that in the third quarter of this game. Third quarter. When he threw the touchdown to Cedric Tillman, that got them to 20 points. The first touchdown he threw to Cedric Tillman with 2 minutes to go in the third quarter. And Jameis Winston had cleared 200 yards passing at some point in the third quarter as well. It's just like, what more evidence do you need? If you are a Deshaun defender, you have no leg to stand on at this point. None. And yeah, it stinks that it had to come to that. It had to come to him tearing his Achilles for the Browns to have to go to a different quarterback. This should have never came to that. Deshaun should have been benched. And the angst and, the bad vibes that have been with this organization and this fan base led to that just ugly scene against Cincinnati last week. But I'm really glad for a lot of guys on this team. It does suck that it came with some casualties in this game. Unfortunately, Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, one of their best defensive players, goes down in this game. Nasty collision with Derrick Henry's shoulder, which is like connecting with another helmet. And JOK had to be taken to the hospital with a neck injury. Hope he's okay. Good news is he had movement in all of his extremities, which you never want to see any one of those collisions because the first thing you think about is somebody's paralyzed. And you don't want any think of Ryan Shazier with the situation that he had almost a decade ago, which was a frightening situation. So hopefully JOK is okay. And then Denzel Ward, I love him, man. He's maybe the best corner in football, but he can't stay healthy, man. He just can't stay healthy. And he left with a concussion in this game. So here's hoping that the Browns survive on defense and somehow are able to hold the league's leading rusher in Derrick Henry to only 11 carries for 73 yards and that touchdown that gave the Ravens the lead inside the final 3 minutes, and then the Browns are able to go down the field at the end. Jameis Winston, 27 of 41 for 334, 3 touchdowns, only gets sacked twice. The offensive line played well. They were playing their asses off. Again, this goes back to Deshaun goes into a lot of sacks and a lot of pressures, and it's just like the disconnect between this offense, Deshaun Watson, the offensive line, a lot of the key pieces that everybody was trying to blame one single entity, blame Andy Dickerson, the offensive line coach. I heard them point, it's not Bill Callahan, or blaming Ken Dorsey or blaming Kevin Stefanski. When you see a functional performance like this, where the Browns on offense were as good as they've been all season, like the Browns offensively, 401 yards of total offense. They were 8 of 15 on third down. They were statistically the worst third down team in football. They outgained. They had more first downs passing. They had more first downs. They had 22 first downs in this game. They got one by penalty. So, but yeah, it's just you see the level of cohesiveness. Yes, they still have penalties and stuff to work on, but when you have a quarterback that instills belief in your team and you're able to move the ball and not have to have such a small margin for error like the Browns had with Deshaun Watson, this is what you get. And they got rewarded big time with a big time win against a divisional opponent. They're 2-6. I've pretty much effectively said the season's over. We'll see how things go. They got one more game before the bye, where they face the Chargers at home. And then they've got the Saints off of the bye, which would be interesting. Like I said, a lot's on the table now because now at least you have some semblance of belief in this team. And it's just like, again, if you are a Deshaun defender, which I will continue to call because there's like the Baker Bros and then the Deshaun defenders, like it's just, you have no leg to stand on at this point. None. Hey, the Browns are able to just are just able to move the ball at will against a good defense. Yes, a defense that was missing a couple of their top corners, but still. Do you think that any of this happens with Deshaun Watson in the game? No. There was no hope with that. They weren't moving the ball. They couldn't get to 20 points. They finally got to 20 points. In the 8th week of the season, they finally cleared 200 yards passing. They had a 300-yard passer. Deshaun Watson did not do that in his entire run with the Cleveland Browns, which I think is now 19, which was at 19 games, if I'm not mistaken. So it's just, man, and the Browns were catching breaks, which was a lot of the theme of what happened last season. A bunch of dropped interceptions. Dustin Hopkins doinks in a 48-yard field goal, which was a key point in this game. They get down the field and they're having sustained functional drives. They went 81 yards on a drive. They had multiple play drives. They had a 70-yard drive in this game. They had a 72-yard drive. They had a 9-play, 69-yard drive after they gave up the lead. And they had a 23-17 lead. They kicked the field goal, which was the right move. And then almost immediately, the Ravens go down the field 91 yards in 6 plays to take the lead. And I just, like I said, credit to Kevin Stefanski for relinquishing play calling. We'll never know what the true reason behind that was. Maybe to scapegoat Ken Dorsey. But for the most part, Ken Dorsey did a really good job. And then Jameis Winston, man, like I said, really shining star of this game. Just a massive, massive win for him. And who's to say that he may not be the starter of the future? And then receivers, catching. Cedric Tillman, best game of his career, 2 touchdowns, 99 yards, 7 catches, and the game-winning touchdown. Elijah Moore made a bunch of big plays in this game. He's been non-existent in a large chunk for most of the part, but he becomes a factor when there's a different quarterback not named Deshaun Watson in there. Jerry Jeudy, 5 catches, 79 yards. David Njoku, 61 yards receiving and a touchdown. The run game, would like to see it get better. Nick Chubb only had 52 yards rushing on 16 carries, but they ran the ball a lot better. I'd like to see them, not do so much of the running game from the shotgun, but that's the offense that they have. But man, like I said, it's just, you look at everything on this team and just the way there was just energy on the defensive side because the players knew that they had a chance. They had a guy to believe in. And it's just really amazing that, it took them till the 8th week of the season by injury to figure this out. From what I was saying and a bunch of Browns fans were saying, who are the non-Deshaun defenders, that this wasn't working with Deshaun Watson. And I firmly believe he's played his last down as a Cleveland Brown. I don't know what more evidence you need to see. There has been multiple different starting quarterbacks that have won football games and have produced way better than what Deshaun Watson was doing for this team. So, like I said, 334, 3 touchdowns for Jameis Winston, only 14 incompletions for him, like a really good passer rating as well. This was a phenomenal performance, and universally, like, just with the way the season had gone so far, to see this result happen, especially against the team that they were playing in Baltimore, a team that had been rolling, that had steamrolled people and won 5 in a row, a team that notoriously owns the Browns in these type of divisional games. For this to happen on this stage against this team, who is one of the contenders to go to the Super Bowl, it's a massive win. And for 1 week, it feels like all is right in the world with the Cleveland Browns. So we'll see what type of momentum they're able to carry into their Week 9 game against the LA Chargers at home. And if they can get to 3-6, then you have the bye to reset yourself. And maybe this team with another game against Baltimore, another game against Cincinnati, and 2 games against Pittsburgh, that maybe this is the type of team that maybe can stage some type of a run. We'll see. But for the first time in 2024, there's actually some legitimate hope with this roster, and in this team, which begs the question is like the immediate defiance of just insisting that Deshaun Watson was going to be the best chance for this organization to win, which is a bunch of horse shit. Because like I said, you look at this. In 3 quarters, they did something Deshaun Watson wasn't able to do leading this offense the entire season. This is almost a carbon copy of 2023 with Joe Flacco when he came in there. Yes, Deshaun, I know, against Baltimore last season had that great game at the end, and then it was revealed he had a shoulder injury. I can't believe I'm about to say this because this is going to sound terrible, and people are going to probably try to clip this off and say that I'm some sort of... The best thing that could have ever happened to this Cleveland Browns organization is Deshaun Watson getting hurt. I mean, what more evidence do you need? He got hurt last year. Joe Flacco comes in, leads them to the playoffs. He gets hurt, tears his Achilles, a debilitating injury, almost immediately. This is a functional offense. This was a historically bad offensive football team. They were great on third down in this game. Like they were producing really well on third down in this game. They were getting first downs. They were getting chunk plays. They were getting big plays in the passing game. They got over 300 yards. They got 20 points. None of that was ever happening. So anybody who wants to say that I'm some sort of terrible person to say that the best thing that happened was an injury, that's exactly what I'm saying. And it's inarguable at this point that when any other quarterback not named Deshaun Watson is at the helm of this Cleveland Browns offense, they do light years better. And the only reason that the Browns have been beholden to Deshaun Watson is because of that contract and the investment that they made, which is now clearly is absolutely been proven to have been a terrible mistake. So we'll see what happens, how the rest of this season goes, how they handle the last 2 years of Deshaun's contract. But this thing is over. It's over. It's over. You can't. You've basically now proven that, hey, we can be a good football team if someone else aside from number 4 is starting for this team. He can't play another game for this team. He just can't. So those are my Browns thoughts for this week. A great win over the Ravens. We'll see what happens. Very hyped up. It's nice to feel great about football. Hey, it's nice to feel great about basketball too. Side note for you Cleveland sports fans, the Cavs are 3-0 and scoring at like 120 points a game, which is great. So it's good to after the demoralizing start to the season for the Browns, and then obviously the Guardians getting eliminated from the Major League Baseball postseason. It's nice to have a lot of positive, juju and like vibes with this Cleveland Browns football team getting this big win in a divisional game against the Ravens. So hit that subscribe button if you're into Browns content or any other sports content here on the channel. Like, share, and subscribe this channel as well. Off the Mics 28 and OT Mike Sports on Twitter. And thanks for watching. I'll talk to you guys soon. Bye-bye.